right? And the tough task which he gave me was turning around Cadbury Celebrations, right? Which was really struggling then. And one of the leaders which I really admire, Mr. Anand Kripalu, he literally made a statement in the open house, right, saying, and this is just when I had taken up the brand role of Celebrations brand manager, and he says, why shouldn't we shut down this brand, right? And I was like, wow, that's a warm welcome.
Our second attempt to to do a conversation on the Practical Marketeer, which is your book, Saurabh, on the ultimate guide to consumer product marketing.
Thank you.
So how does it become? What's the ultimate advice you would give to people on being the practical marketeer?
Sure. So I think the most important advice for any marketeer is to keep an open mind. Because, what I've seen is that so many things continue to surprise you. You always tend to believe that today you know it all, right? And, biggest hubris that a marketer can ever have is that, I think I'm ahead of the consumer. But you never are, right? The consumer is always leaps and bounds ahead of you, right? It is the job of a marketer to try to understand the consumer. It's not really a job of a consumer to care about brands, and consumers often don't. Consumers don't care about brands, right? But brands that understand consumers become surrogate of the category for them. So consumer wants a soap. If Lux understands that consumer very well, the consumer will start saying soap equal to Lux, right? So similarly, if Pepsi knows who I am and the way I operate, for me probably Pepsi will be cold drinks, right? So that I think is one of my learnings as a practical marketer.
So tell us some interesting incidents which were pivotal points in changing your life as a marketing person. They must be like you came out of college, knowing some theory, Kotler and the likes, and then you entered the big bad world of Indian marketing. So what were those 3-4 things which you really remember in terms of your marketing life, which gave you lessons for life?
So, when I came into brand management, I first took on the brand Gems and Dairy Milk Activation, right? In my Dairy Milk Activation role, I got a chance to participate in the creation process for Cadbury Dairy Milk Shorts, as well as Silk. So, some of the bigger initiatives, right? Initially, I got a ringside view. Then, in about 8-9 months' time, my boss realized, Nikhil Rao, that I have a lot of spunk, and he can put me onto a tough task. Right, and the tough task which he gave me was turning around Cadbury Celebrations, right, which was really struggling then. And one of the leaders which I really admire, Mr. Anand Kripalu, he literally made a statement in the open house, right, saying, and this is just when I had taken up the brand role of Celebrations brand manager, and he says, why shouldn't we shut down this brand, right? And I was like, wow, that's a warm welcome. So, and why should you shut it down? The reason why Cadbury Celebrations.
Cadbury Celebrations, okay, fine. Wow.
Right? So he says, why should you shut down Cadbury Celebrations? And he was like, this brand has been in existence for the last 15 years and we are still negative on profitability. So underlying operating income for the last 15 years is negative, 5%. It has stopped growing as well. So is it time to invest in some other brand now? Right? And that allowed me to sort of dirty my hands right to the beginning and get into the brand's P&L and try to understand what's not working. And one of the articulations that I have for the definition of a marketeer is essentially an entrepreneur hired by companies to run their business models, right? And those business models happen to be called brands. But if you are a startup founder, you would behave no different from the way a marketeer would behave, right? You have a certain ecosystem, you have to make this work, and you have all of the variables of the brand at your disposal. You can decide what is really needs to be done, but you need to be able to articulate the challenge first.
Wow, okay. So then where did it take you from there? Like he said, why don't we shut down the brand, and what was your first reaction, and you went back to your desk probably that afternoon, right. And you had a good think about it.
So I remember having this conversation then with Sanjay Purohit, who is my director of marketing, and saying that, boss, have you given me a raw deal? Have you given me this, brand in which I have to make so many boxes, and what is there at it? Right? And I remember Sanjay, for me, being a very junior brand manager, taking me aside and saying that, Saurabh, see, it is more operationally challenging. But at the end of the day, it's still a brand. It's a brand as good as any other brand, right? And over the next 4 years, we were to win more awards than Dairy Milk, which was a 2,000 crore brand. I mean, the flagship was Dairy Milk, and we earned more acknowledgement from the industry with the 150 crores of celebrations than the 2,000 crores of Dairy Milk. And that's a testament to the way brand building works, right? It's not about the size of the portfolio, it's not about what you inherit, it's about what you deliver and make.
So how did you do it? Give us the recipe, the menu, how you, because everybody wants to know that. Like,
right.
you know, there are probably hundreds and thousands of brand managers who are going to be watching this, and they
right.
want to know that how did you turn around celebrations?
Sure. See, there are two parts to any brand journey, right? It's like the hard and the soft, right? There is the logical brain and there is the emotional brain. The hard of it was fixing the business model. Now, the business model, in my opinion, was what was broken. Because the business model was built on certain fallacious assumptions. Like one of our assumptions was the fact that we needed 26 SKUs. Now, why did you need 26 different packs or different sizes, right? Because the belief was the fact that, you know, finally gifting is about novelty, and I don't want to gift the same thing every year. So we create new packs. So now I spent a lot of time with consumers and I asked them, what pack did you gift last year? Forget the shape and size. They had no idea which category they had bought from. Whether they had bought a mithai or a dry fruits or a chocolate, they won't remember anything. I mean, it's just a purchase that was done 1 year back in Diwali, and next Diwali you're just thinking fresh.
Yeah.
So then we did this research called the purchase decision hierarchy to try to understand what really matters, right? And when we did this research, what we realized is a customer first decides what is the price point. Am I going to spend $1,000? I'm going to spend 500. If I'm going to spend 500 bucks, say, as an add-on gift, then am I going to buy which category? That's the second question. So I'm going to buy mithai, dry fruits or chocolates. After the person decides chocolates, and the decision is mostly taken basis, last year I maybe gave mithai, this year I should maybe give dry fruits or chocolates. If I buy chocolates, then the next question is which brand? Should I buy a Cadbury or maybe a Ferrero? Now, whether I want to buy a triangular pack or a pentagon pack or a white chocolate or a dark chocolate or dry fruits with nuts or shaped chocolates, that is so down the purchase decision hierarchy, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that, you know, I remember finally cracking, because it was about making two ends meet, right? It was making the marketing finesse and the art side of us versus the logical, rational business side, which was also often nudged on by Anand Kripalu, was that we finally had to rationalize our portfolio, came down to 8 SKUs in gold and purple, in simple rectangular shapes and sizes, easy to stock, and really got away with all the wastages that we had created in the system. That, for one side, was the hard of it, like, which is where we make the portfolio and the P&L. There's an equally important and very, very important soft side of it, right, which is about what is it that we were talking to the consumer. Now, what I had noticed when I looked at the data is that over the last, say, 1998 is when the brand was created, 2008 is when I took it over. Over the last 2 decades, we had built distribution, so it was available for everybody. We had built trials, so everybody had tried it. We got Amitabh Bachchan on board with advertising, and we had some beautiful Rishton Mein Mithas, etc. taglines. And we had some beautiful, gorgeous packs. So awareness had become 100%, trials had become 100%. The purchases in 1 year were only 30% of the sample. 10% people will come in, 10% will go out. The 60%, which was fixed, was aware non-purchases. So I would ask these aware non-purchases that you are aware of this. You have probably even bought celebrations sometime in the last couple of years. Why not this year? And the answer, which I got, was very surprising. The answer was, I didn't think about it. So I was like, as a marketeer, how do I solve for I didn't think about it? Right? And we are all used to logical conversations, right? Is it kiddie? Does it need to be more premium? Does it need to be more fashionable? What does I didn't think about it mean? Right? And when we got that, my boss Nikhil Rao, he articulated this statement saying that, can we own the spirit of Diwali? To own the spirit of Diwali, we essentially said that can we Can we, become what Coca-Cola did in the US, where they created the Santa Claus to own the spirit of Christmas, right? So how do we own the spirit of Diwali? And we went down to Bareilly, I remember, and I remember meeting this landlord and tenant, right? And before that, we had met consumers in Bombay, and people who were the life of the party, people who would invite, who will, organize the Diwali party in a society. Now, these people were very cheerful and friendly and all of that, and they would really have a great time, but nobody even knew the neighbors. In Bombay, we are increasingly living in an insular society where we don't know even the people that we live next to our house. While in Bareilly, this tenant and landlord lived in the same duplex. On the ground floor was the landlord, on the first floor was the tenant. I remember the tenant still making the statement that our kids, my boys and the landlord's boys have been going to school together for the last 7 years. Everybody in school thinks they are brothers. Now that kind of a love is just not there in the metros. And hence we said that that love is the original state of being. That is what a society should be. That is who we aspire to be during Diwali. So can we tell all of India in Diwali, take a happiness break. Go out there, be your natural self. Go to somebody's house and celebrate that, morning and evening. And hence, to is Diwali, aap kise khush karoge. That became our tagline, right? And that really put the entire brand on, turbocharged, right? So, the top line doubled in 4 years from 150 crores to 300 crores. So, the advertising probably grew the top line. The infrastructure SKU changes grew the bottom line. And from minus 5% operating income, we went to plus 12% in 4 years. So it for me was a perfect case study as to how do you fix, holistically, virtually everything that a brand needs to have it fixed.
Wow. So, but just to, my question, chocolates is a very crowded market. You're really fighting a tough battle. Like you have, from one end of the spectrum, you have, everybody does chocolate. From the home cooks do chocolate, the moms at home during Diwali, they create chocolate. You have the Ferrero Rochers and all of the world which are, defined. And then you have right up to the other end of the spectrum, the Lindt and all. How do you find a space in a crowded market?
So what I find amazing, and this is again a large part of what the book is about, right? It's about positioning. Essentially brands, and it could be a mother brand, it could be sub-brands, they operate different spaces in our mind. And the first question that every brand owner must ask themselves is, what are they in the game for? Are they in this to grow the category? Or are they in this to steal share? And this is a very important question. And I remember Anand Kripalu, he measured himself every quarter across 8 years with the same strategy in the same template. The first line of the strategy was grow the category through dairy milk. The second line was steal share through 5-star perk and gems. Right? Because he was very, very clear on what the respective brand tasks are. Right? See, what I mentioned, consumers don't care about brands. It's the job of marketeers and brand owners to care about consumers. Consumers care about categories that they want to use. So if you're a large enough brand like a Dairy Milk and you own 30% of the category, it's your onus to grow the category, right? It's your onus to create breakthrough advertising like, Pehli Tarikh, right, which was done, or Shubharam, right, or Meethe ke baad kuch meetha ho jaye. Because essentially the tagline of Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye has been consistent since 1994. Since 1994, all Dairy Milk, the brand, mother brand has been doing, has been growing the category. They've been saying that we have this $1 billion worth of business called mithai. And while every Indian has about 10 grams of chocolates a year, an average Indian eats 15 kilos of mithai every year. And if you can keep chipping away at those mithai occasions, you've got a runway for the next 50 years. As you can keep replacing those mithai occasions, right? And hence, grow category turbocharges the entire category. So when Dairy Milk does their advertising, they don't just grow Dairy Milk, they grow all other chocolates. The momentum of the category is established by Dairy Milk. While on the other hand, you have the steal share task, right? A steal share task is about saying, hey, don't buy this brand, buy me. And usually challenger brands do that very well, right? So what, you had Fog doing to Axe, right? Axe was the category creator. Axe drove relevance in your life. Axe told you why you must use a deodorant. Fog said, I don't care about telling you to use a deodorant. You guys are already using deodorants, right? Anybody who has to be converted, Axe is doing the job very well. I'll just tell you why choose me. I got liquid, not gas, and nothing more I need to say, right? Similarly, if you have a Burger King globally, right? Burger King wins the highest number of cans globally. Why? They know they have to only steal from McDonald's. So they're very happy taking pot shots of McDonald's. They're very clear that people will start their burger journey through McDonald's. Once they're having McDonald's, it's their job to say, move over to the better burger. That steals share. So that is really what the first question that every marketer needs to ask themselves.
Okay, so you're now at such a senior position in marketing. Of course, there was a time when you got out of DC and you probably, what would you tell your younger self, your younger boy who got out of DC 4th year and got his graduation certificate about marketing, which if he had known it then, he would have probably reached where you are today faster?
Sure. So actually that in a way is the inspiration for the book, because in an ideal world I would not be doing physics, I would not be doing marketing, I would be doing physics. But why physics? Is it that I'm genetically coded to do physics? Not necessarily. I've done a good job in marketing. Why physics? The reason why it was physics is because when I was in my 6th grade, I read the Brief History of Time. And I was enamored, right? And I was really enamored, and it is fascinating that my childhood hero, Stephen Hawking, right, had an ability to simplify the toughest concepts on this planet, cosmology, astrophysics, right, particle physics, into such a lucid book that a 6th grade student could understand.
Wow.
And be enamored by it, right? A 10 to 11-year-old could love it. And that nobody has done for marketing. Nobody has made marketing so accessible that a 10, 12, 15-year-old can pick up the book and understand marketing. That is what the Practical Marketeer aspires to do. It is written in a manner which is extremely lucid, uses minimum jargon, speaks very simply, directly and personally through you, like holding a mentor in your hand, and simply tells you, you know what, when I went through this journey, this is what I was feeling. This is how I felt, this is how I dealt with the challenge, and this is what I learned, right? And that exactly is the package that I sort of try to put together.
So what are the three, 4 or 5 bullet points which you would tell your younger self that, okay, this is what marketing is different and this is what you should have known?
Sure. See, today, there's a lot of fascination by being a startup founder, right? And thanks to the Shark Tanks of the world, everybody is very, very excited about, I want to be a startup founder. But how are you going to be a startup founder? What does it take to be a startup founder? What are the 3 things or 3 or 4 things that you look at? One, you have to understand the consumer. What's the consumer task? Are you stealing from a real consumer opportunity, or are you just creating a castle in your mind? Does that opportunity exist? How do you validate that opportunity? Second, sure, you got an idea, you got a product, you got something you want to sell. How are you going to go about doing it? What are the bricks and mortar tasks to be done? How does one size the opportunity? How do you realize how large it is or how small it is? How do you put simple pen to paper? And how do you operationalize it? Like, if you want to create a product, what do you do? If you want to decide the right pricing, how is it done? What is pack design? Everybody thinks a pack design is a Picasso at work. It's not a Picasso at work, it's science. What is the simple logic behind all these decisions? What are all the various researches that can be done? How and why do people use celebrities?
But, I have to interrupt you. Like pack design, I saw like a little glint in your eye on pack design. Give us a 3-minute on what you experienced at pack design, because you've been probably dealing with so many packs. What are the challenges that you came up with? How do you do pack design?
Sure. So I remember having these fascinating conversations when I was working on packaging change for the Dubai market. Right, we had a product called digestive, right, which is not very large in India, is very large in the Middle East, right, and in fact about 20% of all business there is the digestive product, right, because it's a very health focused market, right. I think everybody in India who has Britannia Mari graduates to digestive in UAE, right, or a more affluent market, right, and we're just trying to figure out how to create the pack design, and the temptation was to create something new. But creating something new is not what matters, because moment you create something new, you alienate your existing consumers. You miss out on memory structures. Finally, a lot of packaging product pickup is about semiotics. It's about the feeling of familiarity, about the feeling of it feels right. You have to understand the psychology behind it. Right, and hence one of the books which I really benefited from when I was in Diageo was How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. Right, How Brands Grow is almost a kind of a Bible for Diageo, right, and he also pulls this topic out really well, where he talks about the fact that all the assets on a packaging can be isolated. The color, the font, the shape, the text, the ingredient cues, the product rule, the nutritional callouts, and you can number them 1, 2, 3. Maybe you'll have 13 such assets. Then you can do a research on these 13 assets and then try to figure out how meaningful they are and how distinctive they are, how different they are from other people, versus what do they mean to the consumer. Right. So, for example, a Cadbury purple is very meaningful for consumers, right? But in a previous dairy milk pack, there used to be a white line in the center. That was not meaningful, right? The golden arches of McDonald's are both very meaningful and very distinctive. If you have assets on the pack which are extremely meaningful and extremely distinctive, that's your brand. That's your brand logo. So you only need to do 4 things when you're doing pack design. 1, weed out assets which are not meaningful and not distinctive. Let's get rid of them. Clean up the pack. Second, figure out assets which are extremely distinctive. Give some meaning to them. Third, pick up assets which are extremely meaningful at the core of a proposition but not distinctive. Make them distinctive. Last, pick up assets which are both meaningful and distinctive and blow them up. Make them larger than life. Right? So if you look at the last 10 pack designs of dairy milk, and all of that is available online, as you will see all 10 of them, it starts from the most cluttered pack to the most simple pack. Often the best thing you can do in a pack design is to remove stuff and add nothing, just clean it up. One of the most distinctive packs in the supermarket is the Kellogg's Super K, which is the K cereal, right? They just have taken the most distinctive asset about their brand, which is the letter K, and made it larger than life on the pack, nothing else. Because essentially, a pack has to speak to the consumer, has to provide a meaningful proposition, and has to look different from other people. That's all that needs to be done. But if we have this rational theoretical understanding at play, pack design becomes a dream. Otherwise, pack designs can be rabbit holes that you'll never come out of. And there are organizations which can spend 2 to 3 or to 4 years working on pack design across pack design agencies and not landing on the perfect pack, because the fundamentals of what does it take to shift the customer is not clearly understood.
Wow. And I think one of the really good examples of pack design, according to your principles, is iPhone.
Right.
Who totally clean, just a white box.
Absolutely.
And just the logo on top. That's all. And it's some of the most iconic. Design. When it's lying in your home, it's like even on a shelf. Probably sometimes people can recognize that's the Apple box.
Right.
So we can keep talking about it, and but we have to draw an end somewhere because of time. How do we? I would love to have this question. How do we apply the practical marketeer rules to individuals? Because people graduate out of jobs, and we at our stage of life are at a different point in the but There are people who come out of B school, some of them A school, some of them not really top schools. How do they, what is your guidance to them to get a job and to, what are the 5-6 things that you think you have seen people not doing or not doing so well, which you would like to tell them to do?
Sure. So one of the things which I always reflect upon, and maybe this question was first posed to me by one of my favorite bosses, Bhaskar Chaudhary. So Bhaskar Chaudhary is currently the APAC head marketing for Lenovo. And Bhaskar was probably one of the toughest bosses that I've ever worked with, right? When I had moved from sales to marketing, and I just started my marketing journey, Bhaskar actually asked me, he inspired me, and that is, one of the great things about a company like Cadbury's, right? Because every leader out there left an impression on you, right? So what Bhaskar once asked me is to say, what's your brand personality? He says, fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we're all brands, right? We're all brand propositions. What sets you apart? What makes you different? What are your strengths? What are you going to build on? And some of the things which I've learned through my journey and career, it's not about overcoming your weaknesses. It's about strengthening your strengths. Because finally a brand has its flaws, but its strengths overwhelm its weaknesses. That brand never clearly covers every gap. You cannot be everything to everybody. But you can make your strength so large that your brand values shine through. The second time this question was posed to me was when I entered Diageo. Again, under the leadership of Anand Kripalu again. And Diageo globally really had a large belief in brand purpose. So they would ask us to craft our brand my personal purpose. And that's when I looked back over the last 10-15 years and I saw how have I been different? What have I done differently? What is the secret sauce? What is the crucial ingredient that has made me fire, make me work? And it is the fact that I always work through or with other people. I don't work alone. And hence I crafted my personal purpose as I collaborate with others to create magic. Right? My success has never come from my ideas. My success has come by working on other people's ideas, by gluing together people's ideas into one uniform whole. So that articulation gave me another glimpse into my North Star, what kind of a leader that I am. The third part of this journey started with a by a YouTube talk by Simon Sinek, which is Start with the Why. Right? It's one of the third most watched TEDx talks ever. It's there in the Practical Marketeer in about how do you uncover your brand purpose, right? Where Simon Sinek talks about start with the why. Figure out the real triggers, what makes you click, what makes you work. And then envision your future. Look at the end goal. And again, whenever I talk to students or professionals wanting to create a personal journey, I always tell them that if you want to get from A to B, or if you want to be a leader, or if you make it shorter, you want to go and see a movie, you cannot get into a cab saying that Uber cab looks really good or that driver looks very smart, right? You have to put in your destination. So unless you put it down in black and white by visualizing who you will be maybe 15 years down the line, it is difficult to land at that end destination. And I myself did that exercise at 26. I again did that exercise at 40. To try to figure out how am I changing as a person? How is my journey changing? And hence, how is my vision for myself changing? And only when you take a stab at how do you visualize yourself? What are you seeing about yourself 15 to 20 years down the line? Only then can you make the right choices for today so that you deliver that tomorrow that you are seeking.
But okay, imagine a person who has just graduated, say 2 weeks ago, out of college. He's sitting in his room. He's trying to find a job, and he's doing his usual, attaching PDF resumes to mails and saying that whatever, cover letter and all. For him, what you're saying to me makes a lot of sense. But what you're saying to that guy he's a bit desperate, and he's like, all this is fine, but
Correct.
how do I get a job? 15 years is fine, but I want to know, like, for this guy who is like
Correct.
sitting in this, a Spartan room and trying to like just finish his graduation or even post graduation from maybe not an IIM or whatever. What should he do?
Sure.
Like how should he get okay, let me even narrow it down. How should he get a job in Cadbury's?
Done. So easier question, right? And then we don't have to go so much into the vision setting, because to really chart your career, you have to do that. To chart your career, you have to look 15 years on the line. But if you want to start a career in marketing today, right, then in my opinion, it is very, very critical to marry two opposite ends. It's like a Venn diagram, right? One end of the Venn diagram is my ambition. I want to be a senior marketer. I want to be a CMO. Second end is pragmatism. I may not be from a top B school. Those companies may not come to my campus. So what do? And hence, marrying both pragmatism as well as ambition is very critical. Right? Now, the reason why I talked about the 15-year vision is because that person might want to take another MBA. And that's not going to come out when he is going to do his Google search, right? A decision like, do I need to do an MBA or should I move to Canada for PR are longer term decisions, and that depends upon the longer vision. But if my task is, forget about all of that, I have that sorted, today I want a job in marketing, right? Then it is very important to understand that there are always various different routes to reach the same place. You might want to end up as a CMO, but there are many routes to get there, and it is very important to explore all of those routes, right? The first route, of course, is what I did, do sales. But what I realized is that, any CMO that I had seen had started their journey with sales to take up an area sales manager role. And usually, ASM roles are not very difficult to come by, because you are essentially competing with people who have not even done their MBA, they're through the ranks. Right? And hence, for a B school student, getting into an area sales manager role is not very difficult. So take up an area sales manager role, do that for 3 to 4 years, build your equity, move into marketing. That's what I did, because I knew that to become a CMO eventually, I will need to do at least 7 to 8 years in operations and sales, get my hands dirty. Now, you may not be wanting to do that for whatever reason, right? Pick up a job in an ad agency. Join an Ogilvy, a contract, and there are so many different ad agencies out there. Join a role in client servicing. Do well in client servicing, which is operations role. Move over to a planning role, and from a planning role in an ad agency, your avenues to become a brand manager into regular FMCGs opens up again. Take that journey. Now again, you may not want to work in an ad agency. Ad agencies are difficult places to work in. They don't pay very well. The work hours are pretty crazy, and you might be analytically oriented. Now, if you are analytically oriented, try to find a job as a client servicing lead in a Nielsen, in IMRB, in any marketing research company. I mean, I always look at the profiles of various people, and why I always talk about building that vision is because when you look for people who have done all these things, right? So, I mean, there's a very good friend of mine called Saurabh Nath. He's at a very senior role in marketing in Pidilite. He started from a B school and he couldn't find a job in sales. So he worked with Nielsen for 3 to 4 years, and then he moved over to Kellogg's as a marketing person in the insights team, and then he moved over to brand management. So you could do that. Alternatively, you might join a startup or a consultancy. There are a lot of brand consultancies like Bulls Howl, Interbrand, which are into qualitative research. You join as a qualitative researcher, right? So as long as you're able to first fix your end goal, like this is where I want to be, and believe you me, fixing your end goal sounds very difficult. It's not. Fixing your end goal is just simply doing a search on LinkedIn of profiles of people that you want to be like. When you look at the LinkedIn profiles of people in their 40s or in their, say early 50s, right? You will then be able to study what journeys they have taken. When you study this journey, then you are able to bring in pragmatism, saying that if this gentleman who has reached this position had to do this, let me be fair on myself, I might have to do the same. Because often the problem is not that I want to do marketing. The problem is I want to do marketing today.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do sales today.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to work in an ad agency today. If you don't want to take the sacrifices, how will you get the spoils?
everybody wants to be a colonel. Nobody wants to be an infantryman.
Correct.
You know, and dirty his feet and walk through the slush. Everybody wants
Absolutely.
to stand at a height. And sales has got like a bit of a negative thing. And, in fact, even I tell people that the sales is actually the greatest teacher.
Right.
And also the greatest joy, because you can instantly tell people. So great. I mean, that was a great conversation. Practical Marketeer by Saurabh Bajaj. I think is the ultimate guide to consumer product marketing. Of course, we couldn't cover is the tip of the iceberg truly what we spoke about. But as you say, it's something like the brief history of time. So this is equivalent to the brief history of time for marketing. So get your copy, and thank you, Saurabh, for a great conversation.
Great, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's been a pleasure having a conversation with you, and all the best to your viewers. Do get your copy of the Practical Marketeer. Is available for order on Amazon now.
Thank you.